السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله رب العالمين، نحمده ونشكره ونتوب إليه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، إنه من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the insan, the human being, in hardship. Allah has created us in some sort of difficulty. And we spoke a few nights ago after Isha that every single person, whether they be Muslim or non-Muslim, will have to suffer somewhat in this life. Now, some people, they have emotional stress. They have the stress of emotional problems. Other people have the test of financial difficulties, financial stress. Some people have health stress, health-related stress. They have health problems. But every single person will have some test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. SubhanAllah, some people, they're very wealthy. They have a lot of money, a lot of wealth. But emotionally, they don't have peace. They are unable to find emotional peace, inner peace. On the other the other side of the spectrum, you have someone who has no money, who's very poor. But alhamdulillah, he has found inner peace. He has attained inner peace. But every single person, they will have some sort of suffering or test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at one of the greatest examples, Fir'aun, the Pharaoh of Egypt. You would think he was the happiest person because he had this entire empire beneath his hands, and he was a king, and some people were worshiping him. He ordered the people to worship him. And he had wealth, he had everything. You think that this person would be so happy. But Allah tells us that even he had fear in his heart. He couldn't sleep at night. He had nightmares. He had everything. He had all the wealth and the power of the world. He ruled Egypt. But this ruler of Egypt could not even sleep at night due to his nightmares. So the main crux of this khutbah is all of us, the human being, al-insan, they will have some sort of suffering in their life. But what will we talk about in the khutbah? Just because we believe in Allah and we have our faith, does this mean that our problems, they disappear? Or we don't have financial problems within our marriage, within our families, with our children? Is this what it means to be a Muslim? If you become Muslim, or if you're Muslim, means you will live a stress-free life. No problems, no depression, no sadness. The answer is no. And then why am I bringing this up? Because many of the people, they believe this. They believe that if a person is Muslim, there's no suffering. But this is false. Because our connection and relationship with Allah, it doesn't erase the problem in of itself. Because that's not the purpose of our faith. That is not the purpose of our faith. If this was true, if we take what the people think, and we believe this to be true, right? If one has very good faith in Allah, it means that he'll live an easy life, a life free of stress. Then that means that the prophets and the messengers, they would have had the easiest lives. They would have lived the easiest lives. But what do we see when we read about our messengers? May Allah be pleased with them. We see, first of all, no one is closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the messengers, than al-anbiya, than the prophets. Second, after we acknowledge this and we understand this, the number one point, coming to number two, these are the most beloved people to Allah, yet they had the most difficult lives. The hardest struggles, hardest tests. And what makes their test even more difficult, my brothers and sisters, is that their difficulties lie within their own families. Their problems lie within their own families. If I have a problem with brother so-and-so in the masjid, I can escape him. Because I'm not living with him. He's not my blood brother. I mean, we're brothers, of course, but he's not my literal brother, or my cousin, or my uncle, or my mother, and my father. But these anbiya, these messengers, they were faced with such difficult challenges inside their own families. Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, the test, people ridiculed him for 950 years. And he was unable to save his son and his wife when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the flood. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam had to deal with the test of his father, Azal. Azal, Abraham's father, he was an idol worshiper. And not only this, he used to create idols, build idols with his own hands. And even before Sayyidina Ibrahim recognized Allah, he still had the tawheed in his heart. So he hated this. He hated his father, always questioning his father in the Quran. أَتَتَّخِذُ أَصْنَامًا آلِهَةً? You take these asnam, these idols and these statues as Allah? So he hated this from his father. He didn't like seeing this with his father. Sayyidina Ya'qub alayhi salam, Jacob, had the struggle of his own sons kidnapping Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam and throwing him in a ditch because of the jealousy they had in his hearts. Because Sayyidina Ya'qub, he somewhat favored, he had a lot of love for Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, send peace and these blessings to all the prophets, inshallah. The struggle of his uncle, Abu Lahab, one of his biggest enemies in his home family. Unable, these people, these messengers were unable to escape them. How do you escape your father? How do you escape your son, your wife? Which made the shiddah, the severity of their test that much harder. So the idea, you know, subhanAllah, some people, they have no knowledge about their religion. And it's okay, you learn, but you don't go around spreading if you don't have knowledge. People say things like, they judge one another, saying things like, if you have iman and you believe in Allah, you shouldn't have sadness in your life. How can you have sadness when you believe in Allah? So, Rasulullah ﷺ didn't have iman? Na'udhu billah? How can you say this? Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam continued to battle and struggle the loss of his wife, Sayyidina Khadija radiallahu anha, for years. For years. Sayyidina Ya'qub alayhi salam struggled with the depression of losing Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam so much that Allah says, وَبِيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ وَبِيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ. His eyes became white out of sadness because of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. They didn't have iman. If you are telling people, brother, if you are sad, sister, if you are sad, this is a sign that you have no iman or you're depressed. You are accusing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam of not having iman. Na'udhu billah. What a great sin. SubhanAllah. So don't say this. If you have a heart, you will battle with depression and sadness and grief. But I want you to imagine our life as Allah put us in a boat. Allah put us in a boat, in a ship. And He put this boat or this ship in an ocean, in a storm, in a hurricane. And now you have rain coming and the waves splashing you side from side. Now our faith, it doesn't mean that we won't get wet through the storm. It doesn't mean that our boat might not almost flip over. But what does our faith give us? It gives us the strength that comes from Allah to allow us to overcome the storm and navigate through the storm and eventually pass through the storm. What's the point I'm trying to make? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't remove the entire test or hardship, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you and I the strength to overcome this test. This is the purpose of faith. And the two hardest burdens that human beings will always be in a state of: the burden of sadness and the burden of fear. Al-insan, the human being, is always in one of these two states. And Allah says in the Quran, فَمَنْ تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. The one who follows the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there will be no fear on him, and he will not be sad. وَلَا يَحْزَنُ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. They will not be sad. So what's fear? How do we describe fear? Fear, in essence, it's always worrying about the future. Will I lose my job? Will I get that job? Will I pass? Will I get married? Will I do good on the midterm? This is fear. Okay? What's grief? You took the test, and the professor gives you back your test. And you look at your test and you realize you failed. until the test. Even when you were taking the test, there was fear. There was fear. Now you look at your test, your exam, and you realize you failed. Now there's no fear. Now it's sadness. Now there's no fear. Now it's just grief. And sadness about what? The past. So fear, it's worrying about the future. And sadness and grief, it's worrying about the past. So, like I said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he continued to fight emotionally himself after he lost Sayyidina Khadija. And he lost Sayyidina Khadija, his wife, and his uncle, Abu Talib, in the same year. And the scholars refer to this year as the year of sorrow, as the year of grief, when Rasulullah and his Sahaba and his companions were very, very sad, overcome with sadness. So, but can we say he didn't have Iman? We cannot say this. He's the best human being to walk on the face of this earth. Showing us that, brothers and sisters, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to have fear in our hearts. The worst case of sadness is when we look at the story of Sayyidina Moses, specifically his mother. Did the unthinkable act. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the mother of Sayyidina Musa to take her newborn baby, put him in a basket, and throw this basket in the river. فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ. Because Fir'aun was ordering his soldiers to kill all the male children. Subhanallah. وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. Cast him into the river, throw him into the river. And don't be scared, don't have fear, and don't be sad. SubhanAllah. You know when a child goes next to a swimming pool, his mother will go crazy, push every person out of her way to save her son. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering a mother to throw her son in the river. In a river where the basket can flip over, the baby can drown, an animal inside the water can eat the baby. So many things can happen. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering her. وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. And on top of this, she cannot even make a sound. She can't even cry. Otherwise the soldiers will see her and they will realize that one baby escaped. SubhanAllah. She cannot even cry. وَأَصْبَحَ فُؤَادُ أُمِّ مُوسَى فَارِغًا. The heart of the mother of Sayyidina Musa began bleeding out. You know what, subhanAllah, you have nothing left. Maybe some of us have felt this. It's a dead heart. There's nothing in the heart. You're living, but you're not really living. Take this, multiply by 10 times or 1,000 times, and this is the situation of the mother of Sayyidina Musa. But لولا أن ربطنا على قلبها لتكون من المؤمنين. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did something to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, his mother. He gave her inner strength. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave strength to the mother of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. Pay attention, because the situation of Sayyidina Musa didn't change. He's still in the basket. He's still in the river. With the current going and everything. That didn't change. So what changed? Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, the mother of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, her heart changed. How? It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do these verses show us or trying to teach us, my brothers and sisters? We are unable to control our emotions until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us. She was on the verge of screaming. She was on the verge of screaming until there was divine intervention from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is this showing us? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not remove the problem. Allah didn't take Sayyidina Musa, remove him from the river. But Allah will give you strength, inner strength, to overcome this hardship. He didn't take Musa out of the river, but He gave the mother of Musa alayhi salam strength to see her baby going in this river. And alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, Allah gave her the strength. So Islam, faith, it doesn't remove the problem, but rather it gives us strength to overcome this problem. Why can't Allah just remove this problem? Brother Khidr, why not? The problem in of itself, it's a test from Allah. Allah wants to see if He puts some pressure on us, will we break? Will our faith break? He gives you some hardship to see this. He says He believes in me. Let me test Him. You're strong? Okay, take 200 pounds and I'm going to put it on you. Let's see how strong. Right? You're a big tough guy, right? Let me give you weights and let's see how strong you are. Same thing Allah is doing here. You claim yourself to be a believer. Okay. Here's a hardship. Does he break? Or does he stay true to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So there's the hardship. And if you stay true to Allah, like Sayyidina Ibrahim, like Sayyidina Nuh, like Sayyidina Ya'qub, like Sayyidina Maryam alayhi salam, like Sayyidina Musa and his mother, and like Sayyidina Rasulullah. Their problems didn't disappear, brothers and sisters. Abu Lahab stayed Abu Lahab until he died, a mushrik. But he gave Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam the ability and the strength to deal with Islam, which we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to give us the strength to overcome our difficulties and our anxieties and our sadness. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Brothers and sisters, as we are all aware that the COVID-19, it's rising again, and majority of the country, I'm not talking about the state, the country, it's in a red zone. Millions and millions of cases of the virus, and they are increasing daily. What does this mean for us when we come into the masjid? My brothers and sisters, please do not come to the masjid without a mask. And we have masks, so don't argue with the volunteers. Why do we have to wear a mask? You know, subhanAllah, a few weeks ago, some brother came and tried praying Maghrib with us without a mask, and he began arguing with me. Why do we have to wear a mask? This, that, social distancing. If you would like to pray with us, with me, NHIC, brother, these are the rules. Abide by them. If you don't want to pray with a mask, if you do not want to pray with a mask or with social distancing, you are more than free and more than welcome to pray in another masjid. Although I don't think any masjid is praying without mask and social distancing. So don't come to the masjid and spread fitna, because this is the house of Allah and the place of Rasulullah. Respect it. You will not go to Walmart or Kohl's or Target without a mask and start arguing with their manager. Why can't I shake the cashiers? You will not do this. So then why do you come to the masjid and argue with the masjid? According to your actions, you respect Kohl's and Walmart more than the masjid. According to your actions. You can't say you love your mother and you smack your mother in the face. And you kick your mother. Your words are batil. They're false. So you can't say you have respect for the masjid, but you're respecting Walmart and Target, and you're not respecting al-masjid, Baytullah, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So adhere by the rules, try to refrain from shaking hands and touching, kissing and hugging. Inshallah, we ask Allah to bring us back to the time, inshallah, we can do this, inshallah. Maintain social distancing, keep distance when you're talking to your brothers, and keep the mask on at all times, inshallah. Most importantly, if you are sick, please do not come to the masjid. If you are sick and you are insisting on coming to the masjid, you are gaining sin. And you don't need to be a faqih, a jurist, to say this. If you come to the masjid and you spread this, how will you answer Allah? You're putting yourself in adab, wallahi, in a huge punishment. The obligation of Jumu'ah, of Friday prayer, it's lifted from you if you are sick. The obligation, you don't have to pray the khutbah in Jumu'ah if you are sick. If you have fear, you don't have to pray in masjid. This is the fatwa of the council. The councils of fiqh around America, and all, majority of them, they're saying this. If you have fear of getting sick, you can pray at home. If you are sick, you have to pray. You must pray. You can't come to the masjid and start coughing and you give the virus to this person. SubhanAllah, the masjid will shut down. If you want the masjid to shut down, then come to the masjid sick. And please be patient with the volunteers. Okay? Like I said, I, as an imam, or the volunteers, we don't create these rules. These rules come from Connecticut, the state of Connecticut. Whatever the governor creates, establishes, and we follow them. It's not like, why do you want to stick out? The entire world is following the rules. The Muslims are the ones not following the rules. Think about it. Think about what you're doing. If the rule is so-and-so in Connecticut, and the masjids, the masajid, and the Muslims aren't adhering by the rules, how does this make us look? Like we don't have a bad image already, and we want to make it worse. Be patient with the volunteers. The volunteers, they don't get paid. So they're standing outside in the cold to serve you and to serve Allah. If they get upset easily, first of all, don't argue with them. Your temperature has to be checked every day. Every day you come. You have to have masks. Don't come without sajjada, without the prayer mat. Otherwise, you'll waste money buying it. Come with it on your own, and do not argue with them. They're standing in the cold. Their hands are cold. Their ears are cold. They're cold. They're hungry. They're taking time out from their families. They just have to pray khutbah. They don't have to stand out there. But they're serving Allah. Be patient with them, even if they're a little outsy or jumpy. We spoke about this a few days ago. Understand their situation. And they're also hungry, and they have work too, and they have families too, and they're cold. Be patient with them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward them and all of us. Allahumma rabbana atina fid dunya hasana. وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة الفردوس ونعوذ بك من النار صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Please make dua for our beloved son Mu'adh, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him shifa. And also Zayram Khan, he's very sick. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him shifa.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله استقيموا واعتدلوا